Bank of Commerce, an affiliate of San Miguel Corporation. We think customers.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching Eagle News International.
And I'm CJ Hero. Welcome to our program. Now on tonight's headlines.
A Filipina nurse in the United Kingdom was the first person to administer the coronavirus vaccine to 90-year-old Margaret Keenan, the first person in the world to receive the Pfizer BioNTech's coronavirus inoculation after its clinical approval in the UK.
Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez has tested positive for COVID-19.
In sports, the unprecedented walkout of Paris Saint-Germain and Istanbul Başakşehir players over an alleged racist comment by a match official in a Champions League match prompts a renewed debate about racism and football, with some observers hailing it as a turning point.
And flying taxis, a human-like robot singing to visitors while others dance to techno music. Dubai hosts the biggest technology and communication event in the Middle East.
A Filipina nurse in the United Kingdom was the first person to administer the coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19 vaccine to 90-year-old Margaret Keenan. She's the first person in the world to receive the Pfizer BioNTech's coronavirus inoculation after its clinical approval in the UK. It's a huge honor to be the first person in the country to deliver a COVID-19 jab to a patient. I'm just glad that I'm able to play a part in this historic day, National Health Service nurse May Parsons said on Tuesday. Parsons, a Filipino migrant, has worked in the NHS for the past 24 years. And according to the NHS, she had been at the University Hospitals Coventry and Warwickshire since 2003. Parsons delivered the vaccine to Keenan at a local hospital in Coventry, and UK Ambassador to the Philippines, Daniel Prus, described the historic shot as a fantastic moment. Great to see that the vaccine is administered by Nurse May Parsons from the Philippines, one of the many thousands of Filipino healthcare workers making such an enormous contribution to the NHS. Ambassador Prus said in a tweet. In a statement posted through the NHS, Keenan thanked Parsons and the rest of its staff for looking after her. The UK has secured 40 million doses of Pfizer BioNTech vaccine after clinical trials showed it provided about 94% efficacy against SARS-CoV-2, the virus causing COVID-19.
A cruise to nowhere off Singapore was cut short after a passenger tested positive for the coronavirus, according to an official, a blow to efforts to revive the hard-hit industry. Watch this.
With kind of hospital-grade kind of chemicals that we use on board the ship and all the safety measure, it is much safer to become on board than to be anywhere else.
The voyages starting and ending at the city-state with no stops began last month, marking the resumption of cruises after a months-long hiatus due to travel restrictions. But early Wednesday morning, the holiday calm was shattered by an announcement the cruise was being cut short after an 83-year-old passenger had tested positive for COVID-19. Operator Royal Caribbean, in a statement, said that one guest aboard Quantum of the Seas tested positive for coronavirus and that they have identified and isolated all guests and crew who had close contact with this guest. Passengers and crew will remain on board until contact tracing is complete and will undergo mandatory virus tests before leaving the cruise terminal, the board said in a statement. The cruises to nowhere have proved a hit in tiny Singapore after people were unable to go on holiday for months due to travel restrictions.
To the U.S. now, where President Donald Trump signed an executive order to ensure that American citizens have first priority to receive American vaccines. It is unclear, though, how the order would be enforced, as vaccine makers have already inked in deals with other countries. But it suggests the U.S. is concerned about potential shortages as it seeks to immunize tens of millions of people in the coming months. Let's listen in.
Did you screen today? We're working very closely with some today. Well, we're going to have to see who the next administration is, because we won in those swing states, and there was terrible things that went on. So we're going to have to see who the next administration is. But whichever the next administration is will really benefit by what we've been able to do with this incredible science, the doctors, all of the people that came up, the lab technicians. The work that's been done is incredible. And it will be incredible for the next administration. And hopefully the next administration will be the Trump administration, because you can't steal hundreds of thousands of votes. You can't have fraud and deception and all of the things that they did and then slightly win a swing state. It has been incredible, and it will end the pandemic. It will end the pandemic, and we're working with other nations, as you see actually by looking at your screen today. We're working very closely with other nations also to get the vaccines out to other nations, and that's very important. We work with the world. We're working with the world. We have great companies, and we're working with the world.
While President Trump sought to trumpet his administration's policies related to vaccines at his event, his upbeat message was contrasted by a more cautious presentation held simultaneously by President-elect Joe Biden. Biden warned that efforts to get the vaccine out to Americans would slow and stall if Congress doesn't urgently come up with funding, as he also introduced members of his health team. Take a look.
Our preliminary review of Trump administration's vaccine distribution plans confirms media reports. Without urgent action by this Congress this month to put sufficient resources into vaccine distribution and manufacturing, which the bipartisan group is working on, there's a real chance that after an early round of vaccinations, the effort will slow and stall. Let me repeat. We need Congress to finish the bipartisan work underway now. If Congress provides the funding we need to protect students, educators, and staff, if states and cities put strong public health measures in place that we all follow, then my team will work to see that a majority of our schools can be open by the end of my first 100 days.
In a related news, Mr. Joe Biden also pledged that his administration would carry out at least 100 million vaccinations in his first 100 days in office, a more conservative estimate than that offered by Trump officials. Watch this.
I'm going to ask for a masking plan. Everyone for the first 100 days of my administration to wear a mask. This team will help get at the last 100 million COVID-19 vaccine, at least 100 million COVID vaccine shots into the arms of the American people in the first 100 days.
America's floundering efforts to quell the pandemic have been widely criticized. The nation is the world's worst hit, with 15,151,472 cases and 286,117 deaths. California ordered most offices to close and banned gatherings among different households. Bars and services such as hair salons were shut, and restaurants were allowed to serve takeaway only. Non-essential travel was also temporarily restricted statewide as California experienced record new COVID-19 cases.
Israel received its first batch of Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine today, with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declaring the pandemic's end was in sight and vowing to get the first jab. The shipment was the first of 8 million doses ordered from U.S. pharmaceutical giant Pfizer-BioNTech. The end is in sight, Prime Minister Netanyahu said, referring to the disease, which has infected 348,900 948 Israelis, 2,932 of them fatally, according to a Wednesday update. The Pfizer vaccine has yet to receive the necessary regulatory approvals for use in Israel. But the Prime Minister said he expected it to receive clearance in the very near future. The results of third phase clinical trials showed that the vaccine was 90% effective in preventing COVID symptoms and did not produce adverse side effects among thousands of volunteers.
During a virtual discussion on the coronavirus pandemic and the African American community, Dr. Anthony Fauci urged confidence in the COVID vaccines. The CDC says Black Americans are nearly 3 times more likely to die from the virus than their white counterparts. But because of a long history of mistrust, studies suggest Black Americans are less likely to get vaccinated than other ethnic groups. Watch this.
The determination of whether a vaccine is truly safe and effective is not made by the company indirectly, and the government doesn't see the data at all until way down the process. The data first come to a totally independent data and safety monitoring board that is made up of experienced clinicians, scientists, vaccinologists, statisticians, and ethicists. They look at the data and they independently determine if it's safe and effective. Kizzy is an African-American scientist who is right at the forefront of the development of the vaccine. So the first thing you might want to say to my African-American brothers and sisters is that the vaccine that you're going to be taking was developed by an African-American woman. And that is just a fact. The community should hold the feet to the fire of those individuals who are going to be responsible for the distribution to make sure that that distribution is fair and equitable. I hope that it would happen anyway, but I think if you keep a close eye on it, it would more likely happen if they know that people are looking to make sure that it is fair and equitable. You don't decide, well, we have a little bit of a crisis, we want to get a COVID-19 vaccines. Let's start developing relationships with the African-American community and the people in the classically Black African-American medical schools and other institutions of higher learning. You've got to start now. And what we do now is going to bear fruits 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now.
Now to the Philippines, President Duterte has appealed to the public that if possible, to not gather to celebrate during the festivities this year as the country continues to fight the coronavirus. Let's listen in.
Time. Look at it this way. Itong kaisa-isa lang that government will interfere in your private affairs. You might think that this is too much, government does not control us. Of course, we cannot control you individually if what you do is what you want. The problem is we are preventing you from getting other people sick. Yan ho ang laro ng buhay dito. So many parties, almost in your adult and younger years, would you be kind enough just to skip the not really frivolous but the festivities? Iwasan na muna ninyo. You avoid it because it is for your own good and for the good of the community and eventually for the good of the country.
British health officials warned that anyone with a history of significant allergic reactions should not have the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID jab for the time being. The warning came after 2 members of the state-run National Health Service, who were among the first to receive the vaccine on Tuesday, suffered allergic reactions and needed treatment. NHS England Medical Director Stephen Powys said both people who had a history of reactions were now recovering well. The Independent Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency has now advised that people with a significant history of allergic reactions do not receive this vaccination as a precaution. Significant allergic reactions include those to medicines, food, or vaccines, according to the MHRA. Thousands of Britons became the first in the Western world to receive an approved COVID vaccine on Tuesday as the NHS began the biggest vaccination drive since it was created in 1948.
To other news now, prosecutors in the landmark corruption trial of French ex-president Nicolas Sarkozy called for him to be sentenced to a prison term of 4 years, of which he should serve 2. The 65-year-old right-winger, the country's first modern head of state to appear in the dock, is accused of trying to bribe a judge with a plum retirement job in exchange for inside information on an inquiry into his campaign finances. Prosecutors asked for the same punishment for Sarkozy's lawyer and co-defendant, Thierry Herzog, as well as for the judge, Gilbert Azibert. They also said Herzog should also be disbarred for 5 years. Sarkozy, who led France from 2007 to 2012, had told the court Monday that he never committed the slightest act of corruption and vowed to go all the way to clear his name. The corruption and influence peddling charges, among several legal cases against him, carry a maximum sentence of 10 years and a fine of 1 million euros or 1.2 million US dollars.
French investigators were on Wednesday seeking to ascertain the cause of the crash of a mountain rescue helicopter in the Alps that left 5 dead, with only the pilot surviving but badly wounded. The helicopter, an Airbus EC-135 operated by a private firm, crashed Tuesday evening around the town of Bonvillard, just outside Albertville, one of the main resorts in the French Alps. The prefect, the top local official for the Savoy region, Pascal Bolot, said of the 5 passengers and pilot on board, only the pilot had survived but was badly wounded. Despite difficult weather conditions with fog at the crash site, 1,800 meters above sea level, he was evacuated to hospital. Bolo said it was the pilot himself who had raised the alarm. He added that an investigation has been opened by the prosecutor for Albertville, but did not offer an explanation over how the crash happened.
In Germany, Chancellor Angela Merkel demanded tougher curbs to bring down the coronavirus infections, as the German death toll reached a daily record of nearly 600 people. Germany has ordered far less stringent shutdown rules than other major European nations after coming through the first wave of the pandemic relatively unscathed. But Europe's biggest economy has been severely hit by a second wave with daily new infections more than 3 times than that of the peak in the spring. Daily death tolls have been climbing, reaching a record of 500 on Wednesday, 590 on Wednesday, and the chancellor said she believed guidelines agreed 2 weeks ago with the leaders of Germany's 16 states that kept shops open but banned indoor dining were no longer enough. Pointing to recommendations published on Tuesday by scientists of the Leopoldina Academy, Merkel said she agreed that it was right to close shops and limit social gatherings. And the idea is to use the festive period to keep people at home and break the chain of infections. Merkel's government has repeatedly said that numbers need to be brought down to 50 per 100,000 people, but the rate is currently 149 per 100,000. And state leaders had agreed a plan to allow social contact restrictions to be eased over the December holidays, allowing up to 10 adults to meet rather than just 5.
The Royal Air Force has captured images of the largest recorded icebergs floating near the island of South Georgia, South Atlantic. With a surface area of approximately 4,200 square meters, roughly the size of Somerset and longer and wider than South Georgia, and weighing hundreds of billions of tons, A68A is the largest section of A68, an iceberg which calved from the Larsen Sea ice shelf on the Antarctic Peninsula in July 2017. The pictures reveal multiple cracks and fissures, innumerable icy chunks that have fallen off, and what appears to be tunnels extending under the waterline. Although currently heading straight at South Georgia, A68A is being carried in fast-moving waters that should divert the block in a loop around the southern part of the island. There is considerable interest in whether the berg might then ground on the territory's continental shelf. Should that happen, it could cause considerable difficulties for the island's seals and penguins as they try to get out to sea to forage for fish and krill. The images will be analyzed to try to understand how the berg might behave in the coming weeks and months.
New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern paid emotional tribute to the victims of the White Island volcano eruption on the first anniversary of the disaster that claimed 22 lives. Take a look.
Everyone in New Zealand carries a sense of grief that people who came here to enjoy our beautiful country had their time here cut short.
Almost 50 people, mostly Australian tourists, were on the island, also known as Wakari, in December last year when a column of burning ash and steam blasted from a volcanic vent. The eruption killed 22 and left dozens more with horrific injuries, prompting a massive medical operation that saw victims treated in burns units across New Zealand and Australia. Prime Minister Ardern said the disaster was devastating for all New Zealanders, as well as families of victims in Australia, Britain, Germany, the United States, China, and Malaysia. The New Zealand leader attended a memorial ceremony at the meeting house of the local Maori tribe, Ngati Awa.
Now, in other news, deforestation in the Amazon destroyed an area bigger than Spain from 2000 to 2018, wiping out 8% of the world's biggest rainforest, according to a study released on Tuesday. The Amazon plays a vital role in curbing climate change, but destruction of the rainforest has only accelerated in recent years, found the study by the Amazon Geo-referenced Socio-Environmental Information Network. Since the turn of the millennium, 513,000 square meters of the rainforest have been lost, according to the updated Amazon Atlas produced by the organization, a consortium of groups from across the region. It is the group's first such atlas since 2012. The Amazon stretches across 8 South American countries: Brazil, Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, Venezuela, Suriname, and Guyana, and the territory of French Guiana. Brazil, which holds most of the Amazon, about 62%, is also responsible for the worst deforestation. The study found 425,051 square meters from 2000 to 2018.
And we'll be back with more news right after this break.
This portion is brought to you by RJK Services Manpower Agency Corporation.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced, eagle news, because we live in interesting times.
Welcome back. Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez has tested positive for COVID-19. In a statement on Wednesday, Lopez said the result was based on a swab test he took over the weekend after exposure to an individual who tested positive on Tuesday, December 2. He said he was so far, however, asymptomatic and was now in full isolation. While in quarantine, Lopez virtually participated in the Committee on Trade and Industry of the House of Representatives meeting and the Economic Development Cluster briefing of the Presidential Communications Operations Office Global Media Affairs today. He will also give his keynote speech at the Manufacturing Summit 2020. Lopez is the fourth cabinet official to test positive for COVID-19. The others were Interior Secretary Eduardo Año, Education Secretary Leonor Briones, and Public Works Secretary Mark Villar.
Meanwhile, the Philippine coconut industry has more than enough untapped capacity to meet the anticipated growth in demand for virgin coconut oil, or VCO, which has shown to prevent the progression or severity of the coronavirus disease, or COVID-19, according to industry players. The United Coconut Associations of the Philippines, or UCAP, and VCO Producers and Traders Association of the Philippines are encouraging government agencies like the Health Department to support and promote COVID-19 natural alternative options. UCAP Executive Director Yvonne Agustin said coconut oils and their inherent medium-chain triglyceride properties have long been recognized for their antiviral action. In a statement, she said, many who tested COVID-19 positive have recovered rapidly by incorporating coconut oil into their daily diet, while those who are taking it as a supplement have seen their immunity strengthened. UCAP and VCO Philippines data indicated that only 30% of the current 73,000 metric ton capacity is being utilized. With renewed public interest in VCO, MCT, and other coconut oils' alternative health benefits, stakeholders are seeing a 20% growth in the demand by 2021.
The Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, or PDEA, and Grab Philippines have signed a memorandum of understanding to suppress the emerging trend of drug trafficking in the country using the transport and delivery services. In a statement on Wednesday, PDEA Director General Wilkins Villanueva and Sherilis Bonifacio, Public Affairs Grab Philippines, signed the MOA at the PDEA National Headquarters in Quezon City. Villanueva said the MOA aims to contain the emerging trend where, in some instances, accredited transport network vehicle services and delivery service drivers have unknowingly become conduits of drug trade by accepting transport and delivery services from persons engaged in illegal drug trafficking. Grab Philippines said it will also assist PDEA in the investigation on reports on suspected delivery packages, design mechanisms where the items for delivery are properly recorded and visible to the driver. Grab will also implement policies for a drug-free workplace in its premises, as well as ensure that the accredited delivery service drivers are not involved in illegal drug activities.
Now, in other news, Boeing was hit with more canceled orders for its 737 MAX jet in November, according to sales data on Tuesday, even as the plane readies to resume commercial flights this month. Boeing reported 63 net cancellations for the MAX last month, adding to the growing tally following 2 deadly crashes that caused the aircraft to be grounded worldwide in March 2019. U.S. air regulators last month approved the MAX to return to service following upgrades to flight systems and pilot training, a move Brazil's civil air regulator followed a week later. Brazilian domestic carrier Gol Linhas Aéreas Inteligentes is scheduled to resume commercial service on the MAX beginning Wednesday, the airline said this week. American Airlines also plans to resume commercial flights later this month. The latest MAX cancellations bring Boeing's net order total to 536 since the start of the year. The November figures include the restructuring of an order with Virgin Australia, which dropped a plan to receive 23 Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes, but will still receive 25 of the MAX 10 models under a later delivery schedule. The aircraft has been grounding for 20 months following 2 crashes that together claimed 346 lives. New jet demand also has been dented by a major downturn in air travel amid the coronavirus pandemic.
Japanese automaker Honda on Wednesday suspended production at its British plant after suffering a shortfall in parts after blockages at ports caused by the coronavirus pandemic and Brexit. Honda UK said it was pausing work for the day at its only car plant in Europe in Swindon, west of London, due to transport-related parts delays. The situation, it said, is currently being monitored with a view to restart production as soon as possible, according to their statement. The Swindon plant, which Honda has earmarked for closure next year, with the loss of 3,500 jobs, operates on a just-in-time production system under which parts arrive on site only when needed. Britain's biggest container port at Felixstowe in eastern England has been experiencing coronavirus-linked delays for weeks, and some cargo ships have been diverting to mainland Europe, notably Rotterdam in the Netherlands. But problems have also now spread to the port of Southampton in the south as importers bid to stockpile goods before a possible no-deal outcome in the trade talks between the UK and the European Union.
This season's must-have is not a flashy designer handbag, but breathable, disposable, protective medical gear as seen on models striding along a catwalk in northeastern China. Although the country's economy was battered by coronavirus lockdowns early this year, industries quickly bounced back. Exports of medical products like masks has skyrocketed. Watch this.
我们用的医疗卫生的防护，包括我们口罩、防护服，我们预计今年全年出口会超过700亿美元。那么在应用领域来讲，包括我们的职业防护，发展的方向是以多种防护为一体的一种系列化的开发、智能化的舒适性的这种发展，也让我们防护在穿戴的过程中越来越方便，使得我们防护的效果和效率也不断的提升。
Over the weekend, hopeful Chinese manufacturers showcased their wares in Liaoning province at a protective clothing expo, for example, touting thicker but more airy gear that helps doctors to sweat less wearing them. Potential buyers could see models sashay past wearing the gear, and not limited to coronavirus suits, but also showcasing firefighters and power maintenance outfits, according to state broadcaster CCTV. Overseas, shipments of textiles, including face masks, had surged 33% in the first 11 months, according to customs figures this week, with governments abroad putting in place measures to contain the virus. But economists have cautioned that many COVID-related purchases will not happen again, with vaccines around the world soon expected to be rolled out.
In other news, an old skeleton belonging to what is popularly called a saber-toothed tiger has sold for $84,350 a year after its discovery on a U.S. ranch. The skeleton, about 120 centimeters, nearly 4 feet long, was snapped up by a private collector in just 1 minute at an auction in Geneva. Take a look.
Ce tigre à dents de sabre est exceptionnel à plusieurs titres. Tout d'abord, son état de conservation est exceptionnel. Il est complet en squelette véritable à plus de 90%, ce qui est très rare dans la conservation de squelettes d'animaux complets ou de dinosaures. Donc ça, c'est son premier grand attrait, c'est très recherché par les collectionneurs. Ensuite, c'est une bête dont on a un animal dont on a très peu d'exemplaires complets ou en tout cas approchant complet dans le monde. Donc c'est en plus un animal assez rare. On a plus l'habitude de voir des tyrannosaures ou des tricératops que ce genre de mammifères.
The original bones are those of a Hoplophaneus, not technically cats. They are an extinct genus of the Nimravidae family and once stalked the plains of North America. Such extinct predatory mammals are commonly known as saber-toothed tigers. Also on sale was a Tyrannosaurus rex tooth, which fetched just over $6,000, while an 85-centimeter long fin from Mosasaur, a marine reptile that in the Cretaceous period was at the top of the submarine food chain, was bought for almost $8,000.
Flying taxis, a human-like robot singing to visitors while others dance to techno music. Dubai hosts the biggest technology and communication event in the Middle East, GITEX, with more than 1,200 companies from over 60 countries, including Israel, showing off their latest gadgets. Watch this.
I feel at home here. It is a pleasure. Where are you from?
I'm from Nigeria.
From Nigeria. I have met many Nigerian friends.
Yeah, correct.
Are you enjoying your trip to the UAE?
Lab-grown chicken will soon be available in restaurants in Singapore after the country became the first to green-light meat created without slaughtering any animals. Take a look.
Eagle News International will be back. Please don't go away.
Bank of Commerce. What we are is personal banking. where we understand that every deposit is your hard-earned money. Every loan is for good reason. Every service aids in your convenience. Every business of ours is meant to grow yours. We hear you, feel you, and we act on your every banking need. Bank of Commerce, an affiliate of San Miguel Corporation.
This portion is brought to you by Canreef Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Services offered: supply and installation of elevators, escalators, air conditioners, ventilators, jet towel hand dryers, generators, access control system, factory automation and modernization. For more info, please contact Ami Kanke at 0915-263-7198 or 0998-900-3224.
The unprecedented walkout of Paris Saint-Germain and Istanbul Başakşehir players over an alleged racist comment by a Champions League official sparked a new row about racism in football on Wednesday. Both teams left the pitch on Tuesday after a touchline argument erupted when the Romanian fourth official, Sebastian Coltescu, appeared to describe Başakşehir assistant coach Pierre Wibo, a former Cameroon international player, as black or negru in Romanian. The group game in Paris, which was goalless at the time, was suspended and will resume on Wednesday, where it left off in the 14th minute with a different set of officials. PSG forward Mbappe tweeted, "Say no to racism," while teammate Neymar posted Black Lives Matter. Both players were prominent in the heated discussions on the touchline. The row flared after Wibo was shown a red card. Television microphones in the empty Parc des Princes stadium. Matches are taking place without spectators because of COVID-19 restrictions, then picked up a furious Wibo, repeatedly asking why a racist term had been used to describe him. In the exchange in question between the all-Romanian officiating team, Coltescu said, "The black one over there. This is not possible. Go and identify him, that guy, the black one." Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who is understood to be close to Başakşehir's owners, tweeted that he strongly condemns the racist remarks, while France's Sports Minister Roxana Maracineanu, who was born in Romania, praised the players' historic decision.
In other news now, a free COVID-19 test service draws hundreds of Angelinos to the outreach site sponsored by the Iglesia Ni Cristo or the Church of Christ. Alan Basilaje is at the scene.
In Los Angeles County, the rate of COVID-19 related cases has skyrocketed, and in response, more and more COVID testing sites have been established. In Panorama City, California, one such site is projected to test far more than the 500 Angelinos who registered for today's event. The Iglesia Ni Cristo, in partnership with the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, is working with the City of LA to provide free testing, free food, and free PPEs.
What took place here today is something that the mayor brought out. Is what we're doing is we're COVID testing citizens of people with appointments and non-appointments, which means walk-ups. And today at the church today, we had 500 scheduled, and we tested over 1,000. Roughly 1,200 people got tested today. But I think it was a success in the end. Everybody got tested, and nobody got turned away.
This church of Christ is doing a great event today where they're actually hosting free COVID testing. And someone who feels great, I still would like to know where I stand. And the Church of Christ put on a great event. I had an appointment at 12:30. I probably waited in line for maybe 20 minutes max. The test was quite simple.
When you get a test for $125, so it's the same thing. And if you know that you can do this for free, like, I don't want to spend like $250 for like just for the test. So, yeah.
For people who can't afford it, this is an amazing, amazing gift.
I think it's really great what everyone's doing. Everyone's so nice here, and it's such an easy opportunity, free. So get tested. There's no reason why I shouldn't.
Está perfecto. Está perfecto. Estoy muy agradecida que estén este programa está interesado en la salud.
When I got here, I told the person that I had a back problem, that I couldn't stand too long on the line, and he immediately brought me over here. He knew that I was disabled. I have difficulty walking. So he immediately brought me over here and sat me down, and they brought the results, the packet so that I can do and he gave me the instructions how to do it.
Our staff was able to gather, through donations, we were able to gather hand sanitizers, face masks, additional resources, mental health resources for individuals, for the community. So our job is to provide that information, the education, the knowledge about what to do and how to protect yourself from COVID.
We know that everyone is maybe worried or anxious or stressed out, so we just wanted to give back to the community, make everyone feel more at ease, happy if possible, by giving them just a little bit of help, snacks on the way out, together with hand sanitizers, face masks, necessities that we use every day, just to help them with what we're all going through right now. Our event here is just one amongst many. We have a drive to help our fellow men and countrymen there in Africa. We have another type of activity where we're planning to give our donations, clothing and food to those people that were affected by the recent typhoons and floods in the Philippines. So it's not just here in LA. Different places around the world, the church administration, through the leadership of Brother Eduardo Manalo, is thinking for how we can help those who are in need.
Scenes of packed testing sites in Los Angeles have become an all too common occurrence for pandemic-weary residents coping with how COVID-19 has reshaped their lives.
Some people get like economic. Like me, I work in a restaurant, and it's gonna be 3 weeks with no work, so it's gonna be really hard. And probably after those 3 weeks, it can be more. We never know, but hopefully no.
Depressing for many. Mental health issues have gone up. I work in a hospital, so we see how people are coping with the pandemic, and it's the numbers are rising, unfortunately.
She had it 2 weeks ago and gave me it. I had no symptoms.
I got all of them.
Yeah.
I had coughing, sore chest, sore stomach, I threw up,
You didn't have a fever.
Oh, the only thing, that's right, I did not have a fever, and I did not lose my sense of smell and taste. But everything else I was in bed for many, many days, just feeling awful.
One who feels healthy as ever, you don't want to put others in harm. You don't want to put others in harm, even if you feel good. Just get the test done, just to know where you are.
Testing is set to continue for another 3 hours or so. And as you can tell, there's no shortage of sun or people waiting to get tested. But despite the long lines and the potential vitamin D overdose, Angelinos are willing to exchange part of their day for a little peace of mind. In Panorama City, California, Alan Bosoyahe, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Very expensive COVID test there. Yeah?
I know.
Anyways, before we go, we would like to greet Brother Lino Cueto and his family from San Antonio, Pampanga, who's always watching us. CJ, hello po sa inyo and happy watching po.
Maya pabengi po kaya kayo.
There you
well,
go.
that's it for tonight's broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm CJ Hero. Join us again tomorrow.
And I'm Alma Angeles. At the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. And we live in interesting times.